The zip ties cut into my wrists as I stood on the makeshift stage. The warehouse reeked of motor oil and stale beer. Around me, leather-clad men shouted numbers like I was cattle at market. 5 grand. 7. 10. My knees shook, but I kept my chin up. Dad had done this. My own father sold me to pay his gambling debts. 3 weeks ago I was starting my senior year of college. Now I was standing half-naked in front of the Devil's Jackals MC, waiting to see who would own me. 15,000. A fat man with gold teeth grinned at me, licking his lips. My stomach turned. I closed my eyes and tried to disappear into my mind, but a voice cut through the noise like a blade. 50,000. The room went dead silent. I opened my eyes and saw him. He stood at the back of the crowd, arms crossed, face carved from stone. The left side of his face was a twisted mess of burned scars that made him look like something from a nightmare. His dark hair was pulled back, showing the full extent of the damage. But his eyes, they were ice blue and completely cold. Did I stutter? His voice was low, dangerous. 50,000. The auctioneer stammered. Going once, going twice. 60. Gold Teeth wasn't giving up. The scarred man pushed through the crowd. When he moved, others stepped aside like he was death himself. He was huge, at least 6'4", with muscles that strained his black t-shirt. A leather vest with patches covered his chest. Reaper was stitched above his heart. You sure you want to do this, Frank? Reaper's voice was calm, but the threat was clear. Frank swallowed hard and shook his head. Smart man. Reaper turned to the auctioneer. 50,000. Now end this. Sold. To Reaper. My legs gave out. 2 men grabbed my arms before I hit the stage. Everything felt like a dream, a really bad dream I couldn't wake up from. Reaper walked up to the stage. Up close, his scars were even worse. The fire had melted the skin from his temple to his jaw. But he wasn't looking at me like the others had. There was no hunger in his eyes. Just cold calculation. Get her in my truck. Now. He threw a roll of cash at the auctioneer and walked away. A mountain of a man with tank on his vest cut my zip ties. Come on, princess. Boss doesn't like to wait. I rubbed my wrists where the plastic had bitten into my skin. What's he going to do to me? Tank just shrugged. That's between you and Reaper. But I'll tell you this, you could have done a lot worse tonight. Frank there. He goes through girls like tissues. At least Reaper keeps his property in one piece. Property. The word hit me like a slap. Outside, Reaper leaned against a black pickup truck, smoking a cigarette. The orange glow lit up his scars as he took a drag. When he saw me, he flicked the cigarette away and opened the passenger door. Get in. I hesitated. This was it. Once I got in that truck, there was no going back. I can put you in the back with Tank if you prefer, Reaper said. But up here you get a seatbelt. I climbed into the truck. The interior smelled like leather and cigarettes. Reaper got behind the wheel and started the engine. The truck rumbled to life like a caged animal. We drove in silence through the desert. No radio, no conversation. Just the sound of tires on asphalt and my heart pounding in my ears. I kept stealing glances at him. The scars were horrible, but there was something about his profile that was almost handsome. Strong jaw, straight nose. He would have been beautiful once. Stop staring, he said without looking at me. Sorry, I just... Save it. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. You'll have plenty of time to get used to looking at me. 20 minutes later, we pulled through a gate topped with razor wire. The compound spread out before us. A main house, several smaller buildings, and bikes everywhere. Men in leather vests watched us drive by. Reaper parked in front of the main house and got out. I sat frozen in my seat. He opened my door. Move. Inside, the house was surprisingly normal. Leather furniture, a big TV, kitchen with granite counters. It could have been anyone's home if not for the gun cabinet in the corner. Upstairs. Second door on the right. He pointed toward a staircase. I climbed the stairs on shaking legs. The room he'd pointed to had a bed, dresser, and small bathroom. The window faced the courtyard below. There were bars on it. I turned around to find him watching me from the doorway. This is your room. The door locks from the outside. Don't try to leave without permission. He tossed something on the bed, a cell phone. Emergencies only. Tank's number is programmed in. What about you? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Something flickered in his cold eyes. I'll find you when I need you. He left and I heard the lock click. I was alone in my cage, $50,000 worth of property. Outside my window, the devil's jackals revved their engines and roared into the night. I didn't sleep that first night. Every sound made me jump, footsteps in the hall, doors slamming, engines starting. I sat by the barred window watching the compound come alive as the sun rose. Men in leather vests walked between buildings. Some worked on bikes in the garage. Others sat around picnic tables drinking beer even though it wasn't even 8 in the morning. They all had the same patches, a grinning skull with devil horns. A knock on my door made me spin around. "It's Tank," a deep voice called. "Got breakfast for you." I heard the lock turn. Tank filled the doorway carrying a tray of food. He was even bigger than I remembered, probably 6'6" and built like a linebacker. His bald head was covered in tattoos. "Boss says you need to eat." He set the tray on my dresser. Eggs, bacon, toast and coffee. Real food, not the scraps I'd expected. "Where is he?" I asked. "Reaper? Club business. He'll be back later." Tank studied my face. "You hurt?" I shook my head though my wrists were still red from the zip ties. "Good. Listen close, princess. You need to understand how things work here." He leaned against the doorframe. "You belong to Reaper now. That means nobody touches you but him. Nobody talks to you unless he says so. You got a problem, you come to me." "Got it. What if I don't want to belong to anyone?" Tank almost smiled. "Honey, you got 2 choices. Belong to Reaper or belong to whoever bids second highest. And trust me, Frank ain't nearly as nice as the boss." After he left, I picked at the food and stared out the window. The compound was like a small town, but instead of neighbors, everyone carried guns. Around noon, commotion in the courtyard caught my attention. A group of men surrounded someone, their voices angry. I pressed my face to the glass and saw Reaper in the center, his scarred face twisted with rage. He grabbed a younger man by the throat and slammed him against a truck. I couldn't hear the words, but the violence was clear. Reaper's fist connected with the man's face once, twice, 3 times. Blood splattered on the concrete. Other men pulled him back, but Reaper wasn't done. He pointed at the beaten man and said something that made him scramble away, holding his nose. Tank appeared beside Reaper and pointed up at my window. For a moment, Reaper's ice-blue eyes met mine through the glass. Even from that distance, I could feel the intensity of his stare. That afternoon, Tank brought lunch and stayed to talk. "What did that man do?" I asked. "Suggested you might be more fun if you were shared around." Tank's voice was flat. "Boss doesn't share." A chill ran down my spine. "So he beat him up to protect me?" "He beat him up because you're his property. Don't confuse protection with kindness, princess. Reaper don't do kindness." But I wasn't so sure. The beating had been brutal, but it kept other men from looking at me like meat. That evening, Tank brought dinner and clean clothes, jeans and t-shirts in my size. Everything fit perfectly. "How did he know my size?" I asked. Tank didn't answer. Left alone again, I explored the room more carefully. The dresser was old but solid. In the bottom drawer, I found something that made my breath catch. Photographs. Dozens of them. A woman with long dark hair and brown eyes. She looked happy in the pictures, laughing, riding on the back of a motorcycle, kissing a man whose face I couldn't see clearly. But in one photo she was pressed against someone with familiar scars. The woman looked like me. Not exactly, but close enough to be my sister. I spread the photos on the bed, studying each one. The woman's Sarah, written on the back of one, seemed to glow with life. In the last few photos she looked different. The smile didn't reach her eyes. Footsteps in the hall made me scramble to put the photos away, but I wasn't fast enough. The door opened and Reaper filled the frame. He'd changed into a black Henley that stretched across his broad chest. His eyes went straight to the photos in my hands. For a long moment neither of us moved. "Find something interesting?" His voice was deadly quiet. I set the photos on the dresser with shaking hands. "I'm sorry. I was just looking through my things." He stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. "That's Sarah. My ex. She looks like me." "Yeah." He gathered the photos and put them back in the drawer. "That's why I bought you." The words hit like a punch. "You bought me because I look like your ex-girlfriend?" He turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw something other than cold anger in his eyes. Pain maybe. Or regret? Sarah's dead, he said simply. And you're here. That's all that matters now. What happened to her? His jaw tightened. She betrayed me to a rival club. They tried to burn me alive. Sarah died in the fire she helped them set. The scars. Now I understood. The fire that did this to your face? Among other things. He touched the twisted skin on his cheek. You scared of how I look? I studied his face, the melted skin, the way it pulled at his left eye, the patches where hair would never grow again. It was horrible, but somehow it made the undamaged parts of his face more striking. No, I said and meant it. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise maybe. Get some sleep, he said, heading for the door. Tomorrow we talk about rules. As the lock clicked behind him, I realized something that should have terrified me. I wasn't afraid of Reaper anymore. I was curious. Reaper came for me the next morning. No tank this time, just him standing in my doorway with 2 cups of coffee. Come on, he said, handing me one. Time to see your new world. I followed him downstairs to a large kitchen. Sunlight streamed through windows that didn't have bars. The normalcy of it, granite counters, stainless steel appliances, a fruit bowl on the island felt surreal. Sit. He pointed to a bar stool. I perched on the edge, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. The coffee was good, stronger than I was used to. Reaper leaned against the counter across from me, his arms crossed. In the morning light, his scars looked less frightening and more like a map of survival. Here's how this works, he said. Your father owed us $60,000. He couldn't pay, so you're working off his debt. For 6 months. Yeah. During that time you belong to me. You live in my house, you follow my rules. His eyes were steady on mine. You cook, clean, and be available when I need you. He crept up my neck. Available for what? Whatever I decide. He took a sip of coffee. But I'm not going to touch you. Not yet. Not yet. You're not ready. Hell, you're barely holding it together as it is. He studied my face like he could read my thoughts. When I take you, I want you to want it. My cheeks burned. That's never going to happen. Something that might have been a smile tugged at his mouth. We'll see. He pushed off from the counter and walked to a drawer, pulling out a first aid kit. Let me see your wrists. I held out my hands. The zip tie marks were fading but still red. His fingers were surprisingly gentle as he cleaned the cuts with antiseptic. The contrast between his scarred, dangerous hands and his careful touch made something flutter in my stomach. Why aren't you like the others? I asked. What others? The men at the auction. They looked at me like. I shuddered. Like meat. He applied antibiotic ointment to the cuts. Because that's what you were to them. Property to be used and thrown away. And to you. He wrapped gauze around my wrists with practiced efficiency. You're still property. But you're my property. I take care of what's mine. Even if what's yours doesn't want to be owned? He taped the gauze in place and looked up at me. Especially then. The kitchen fell silent except for the tick of a clock on the wall. His thumb traced over the bandage on my wrist and I felt my pulse jump. Tell me about Sarah, I said. His hands stilled. No. She looked happy in those pictures. Before the end. She was. We both were. He let go of my wrist and stepped back. Then she decided she wanted more than what I could give her. What did she want? Out. She wanted out of this life. His laugh was bitter. So she made a deal with our enemies. Give them information about our security, our routines. In exchange, they'd help her disappear. But something went wrong. Everything went wrong. They didn't want to help her escape. They wanted to destroy me. She was just bait. He touched his scarred cheek. The fire was supposed to kill me. Sarah got caught in it instead. I'm sorry. Don't be. She made her choice. He moved to the window looking out at the compound. You look like her, but you're not her. Don't make the mistake of thinking you can manipulate me the way she did. I'm not trying to manipulate anyone. I just want to understand. He turned back to me. Understand this, you're here for 6 months. Make it easy on yourself and follow the rules. Try to run and I'll make sure you regret it. What are the rules? Don't leave the compound without permission. Don't talk to other members unless I'm present. Don't go in the garage, the chapel, or the basement. Ever. His voice hardened on the last word. And don't try to contact anyone from your old life. What about my college classes? My friends. Your old life is over. This is your life now. The finality in his voice made my chest tight. For 6 months. We'll see. Something in his tone made me look up sharply. He said 6 months. That was the deal. Deals can change. He finished his coffee and set the mug in the sink. Depends on how well you adapt. Adapt to what? To being mine. Before I could respond, he was gone, leaving me alone in the too normal kitchen with my thoughts spinning. Later that afternoon, I explored the parts of the house I was allowed in. The living room had a massive TV and comfortable furniture. Bookshelves lined one wall, mostly thriller novels and motorcycle magazines, but some classics too. In the dining room I found more photos. These showed the club's history, group shots of members, rally photos, pictures of bikes. Reaper appeared in many of them, but always before the fire. His face whole and handsome. One photo made me stop. Reaper and another man who looked almost identical, same dark hair, same strong jaw, same build. Brothers maybe. But where Reaper's eyes were ice blue, this man's were darker. Meaner. That's Venom. I spun around. Tank stood in the doorway. Reaper's brother? I asked. Used to be. Not anymore. Tank's expression was grim. He's the one who burned Reaper. Him and the Savage Reapers. His own brother tried to kill him? Blood don't mean much when there's a woman involved. Tank picked up the photo and studied it. Venom wanted Sarah first. When she chose Reaper instead, it broke something in him. So he convinced her to betray Reaper? Among other things. Tank set the photo down. Just remember, princess, you might look like Sarah, but this ain't her story. Don't make her mistakes. That night, I lay in bed thinking about everything I'd learned. Reaper wasn't just dangerous, he was broken. Burned by his brother's betrayal and his lover's treachery. And somehow I was supposed to heal wounds I didn't understand while fighting feelings I didn't want to have. Because despite everything, the kidnapping, the auction, the cage I was living in, I was starting to care about the scarred man who owned me. That scared me more than anything else. By my 5th day in captivity, I'd memorized every routine in the compound. Reaper left at 9 for club business. Tank checked on me at noon and 6. The guards changed shifts at 8 p.m. Friday night, the entire club was partying. Music pounded from the main building, and the sound of laughter and breaking glass carried across the courtyard. I'd been watching from my window for an hour, counting the men, noting who was drunk. This was my chance. I waited until midnight, then used the bobby pin I'd been saving to work on the door lock. Took 20 minutes, but finally I heard the click. The hallway was empty. I crept down the stairs, avoiding the creaky 3rd step. The kitchen was dark, but moonlight showed me the back door. My heart hammered as I turned the handle. It opened. The desert stretched out behind the compound, silver under the full moon. Freedom was 50 yards away, just past the fence line where I could see the main road. I ran. The sand grabbed at my sneakers, but I pushed harder. Behind me, the party continued. No one had noticed yet. I was 20 yards from the fence when lights blazed to life. Well, look what we got here. 3 men emerged from the shadows. Prospects judging by their patches. Young, drunk, and looking for trouble. Boss said nobody leaves without permission, the tallest one said. His words slurred together. I'm just getting some air, I lied. Bullshit. Another one grabbed my arm. You were running. Question is, what do we do with you now? Take her back to Reaper, the third one said. Or, the tall one grinned, showing crooked teeth. We could have some fun first. Boss is busy with club business. What he don't know won't hurt him. Fear shot through me like ice water. I tried to pull away, but their grip tightened. Let go of me. Nobody's gonna hear you over the music, sweetheart. A gunshot split the night. All 3 prospects froze. Slowly we turned toward the compound. Reaper stood 50 feet away, smoking gun in his hand. But he wasn't looking at the prospects. He was looking at me. Bring her. His voice carried across the desert like a death sentence. The prospects dragged me back, but they kept their hands to themselves now. Whatever they saw in Reaper's face had sobered them up fast. The clubhouse had gone quiet. Word traveled fast in a place like this. By the time we reached the main building, every member had gathered outside. Reaper stood on the steps, still holding his gun. In the harsh light, his scars looked like war paint. Strip, he said. My blood turned to ice. What? You heard me. Thip. Down to your underwear. I won't. He raised the gun, not pointing it at me but making it clear he could. You want to run? Fine. But first, everyone needs to see exactly who they're looking at. Shame burned through me, but I saw the madness in his eyes. He'd do it himself if I refused, and that would be worse. With shaking hands, I pulled off my t-shirt. The men watched in silence. Some looked hungry, others uncomfortable. I kicked off my shoes and jeans, standing there in just my bra and panties. Turn around. I turned, letting them see everything. The humiliation was complete. This, Reaper's voice boomed across the crowd, belongs to me. Anyone who touches what's mine dies. Anyone who helps what's mine escape dies. Anyone who even thinks about what's mine without permission dies. He walked down the steps and the crowd parted. When he reached me, he grabbed my wrist and pressed something against my hip. Pain exploded across my skin. I screamed and tried to pull away, but his grip was iron. The smell of burning skin filled my nose. When he pulled the brand away, Reaper was burned into my hip in 2-inch letters. Oh, not burned. I looked down and saw it was a temporary tattoo, the kind that looked real but would fade in a few weeks. The pain was from dry ice, not fire. But it felt real. And to everyone watching, it looked real. Run again, he said loud enough for everyone to hear, and the next mark will be permanent. He threw his leather jacket around my shoulders and picked me up, carrying me back toward the house while I sobbed against his chest. Upstairs, he set me on my bed and went to the bathroom. I heard water running. When he came back, he had a wet towel and a bottle of aloe vera. Let me see. His voice was gentle now, completely different from the man who'd humiliated me in front of his club. I was too broken to fight. He carefully cleaned the fake brand, then smoothed cool aloe over the irritated skin. It'll fade in a few days, he said. Fake tattoos always do. You bastard. The words came out as a whisper. Yeah. I am. He capped the aloe bottle. But I'm your bastard. And I just made sure every man in that compound knows it. You humiliated me. I protected you. He sat on the edge of the bed. Those prospects were 30 seconds away from gang raping you in the desert. Now they know touching you means death. I could have made it to the road. No. You couldn't. He touched my face, forcing me to look at him. There are motion sensors in the fence. Cameras on the perimeter. I knew you were gone before you cleared the back door. Then why didn't you stop me sooner? Because you needed to learn. This isn't a game, Mia. This isn't some romance novel where the bad boy falls in love and lets you go. This is real life, and real life has consequences. I turned away from him, pulling the jacket tighter around my shoulders. It smelled like leather and cigarettes and something uniquely him. You're a monster, I said. Yes. I am. He stood up. But I'm a monster who'll kill anyone who tries to hurt you. Remember that next time you think about running. He left me alone with my shame and the throbbing pain on my hip. But as I lay there in his jacket, breathing in his scent, I realized something terrible. The humiliation had broken something in me, just like he'd intended. But it had also awakened something else. Something dark and twisted that responded to his dominance. I hated him for what he'd done. But God help me, part of me had liked it. And that scared me more than anything else in this place. 3 days after my failed escape, something shifted between Reaper and me. He still locked my door at night, but during the day he let me move freely through the house. Sometimes I caught him watching me with an expression I couldn't read. You need to learn to ride, he said one morning over coffee. Ride what? A bike. If you're going to be here, you need to know how to handle yourself on 2 wheels. He led me to the garage where dozens of motorcycles sat in perfect rows. The air smelled of oil and chrome polish. It was clearly sacred space. No one else was around. This one's yours. He stopped beside a smaller bike, deep blue with silver accents. Yamaha 650. Good starter bike. It's beautiful. I ran my fingers over the smooth tank. Sarah's bike. He watched my reaction. She never got the hang of riding it. I pulled my hand back. Maybe I shouldn't. It's yours now. Sarah's dead. The bike needs to be ridden. He swung his leg over his own massive Harley. Come on. Time to learn. For the next 2 hours he taught me the basics. How to balance, how to shift, how to lean into turns. His hands on mine as he showed me the controls. His body pressed against my back as he corrected my posture. I was hyper-aware of every touch, every brush of skin against skin. When he praised my progress, warmth spread through my chest. When he smiled, actually smiled, at my clumsy attempts to start the engine, my heart skipped. "You're a natural," he said as we walked back to the house. "You're a good teacher." The words slipped out before I could stop them. He paused on the porch steps. "Sarah used to say that too." The spell broke. I was Sarah's replacement, nothing more. That afternoon the club gathered for church, their weekly meeting. Reaper had explained that no women were allowed, so I stayed in my room reading one of his books. The explosion came without warning. My window shattered inward, covering me in glass. Outside men were screaming. Gunfire erupted across the compound. I dropped to the floor and crawled to the broken window. Motorcycles poured through the main gate, maybe 20 of them with more coming. Their patches showed a different symbol, a skull with a snake wrapped around it. Savage Reapers. I watched in horror as the two clubs clashed in the courtyard. Men fell on both sides. Tank took 3 men down with his bare hands before a bullet dropped him. Where was Reaper? More gunfire from inside the house. They were in the building. My door exploded inward. A man in Savage Reaper's colors grabbed my arm and hauled me to my feet. "Found her." He dragged me down the stairs, past the bodies of Jackals members. In the main room, the surviving club members knelt with guns to their heads. Reaper was on his knees in the center, blood running from a cut on his forehead. His eyes found mine and I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. Well. A voice like silk over steel. "Look what we found." A man stepped out of the shadows and my breath caught. He looked exactly like Reaper, same height, same build, same dark hair. But where Reaper's face was scarred, this man was perfect. And where Reaper's eyes were ice blue, this man's were black as midnight. "Hello, brother," the man said. "Venom." Reaper's voice was steady despite the gun pressed to his skull. Venom smiled, but it never reached his eyes. He walked over and grabbed my chin, turning my face side to side. My. You do look like her, don't you?" His thumb traced my cheek. "Funny how you replaced Sarah so quick, brother. What's it been, 3 years? Leave her out of this." "Oh, but she's already in it. Deep in it." Venom pulled a gun from his jacket and pressed it to my temple. "Tell me, sweetheart, has he told you about me? About what really happened that night?" I looked at Reaper, whose face had gone white. "He burned you," I said. Venom laughed. "Is that what he told you? That I burned him?" He leaned close, his breath hot against my ear. "I didn't burn Reaper. I burned Sarah. She was mine first, you see. Before she decided she wanted the scarred monster instead of the perfect brother." "You're lying." "Am I?" "Tell her, Reaper. Tell her how Sarah came to me begging me to help her get away from you. Tell her how she said you'd become obsessed, possessive. Tell her how she was terrified of what you'd become." "Sarah loved me," Reaper said, but his voice cracked. "Sarah used you. Just like she used me. But you were too blind to see it." Venom's grip on my hair tightened. "She promised to come away with me. Instead, she played us against each other, collecting information from both clubs. She was going to sell us all out to the feds." "That's not true. The fire was supposed to be a distraction while we all killed each other. Sarah would disappear with her FBI contact and a new identity." Venom's voice dropped to a whisper. "But she got greedy. Tried to save some photos from your room first. That's when the flames caught her. The room spun." I looked at Reaper, searching for denial, but saw only broken devastation. "The auction was a setup, Reaper," Venom continued. "Her daddy didn't owe us shit. She's here because I wanted her here. Because I wanted you to fall for another Sarah lookalike so I could take her away too." Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called the cops. "Time to go." Venom dragged me toward the door. "Don't worry, brother. I'll take good care of your new toy." "No." Reaper lunged forward, but the gun cracking against his skull dropped him. "Reaper!" I screamed, fighting against Venom's grip. "He can't help you now, sweetheart. You're mine." The last thing I saw before Venom threw me over his shoulder was Reaper's unconscious form bleeding on the floor. Then we were outside, racing toward his bike as police lights flashed in the distance. "This is just like old times," Venom shouted over the engine noise as we sped into the desert. "Me stealing what belongs to my dear brother." I held on tight, not from choice but from survival instinct as we disappeared into the night. Behind us, the Devil's Jackals compound burned against the desert sky. And somewhere in that fire, Reaper was either dead or wishing he was. I woke up in a room that could have been my prison back at Reaper's compound. Same bars on the windows, same locked door. But where Reaper's house felt like a home, this place felt like a tomb. The savage Reaper's compound was all concrete and steel, built like a fortress in the mountains. Through my barred window, I could see men with rifles patrolling the perimeter. Rise and shine, beautiful. Venom stood in the doorway with a breakfast tray. In daylight, the resemblance to Reaper was even more striking. Same strong jaw, same broad shoulders. But everything about him felt wrong, like looking at a perfect photograph when you knew the original had been alive. Where am I? My home. Our home now. He set the tray on a small table. Eat. You'll need your strength. For what? For understanding the truth. He sat across from me, studying my face with those dead black eyes. Tell me, what do you know about your father? He's a gambling addict. He sold me to pay his debts. Partially true. Venom pulled out his phone and scrolled through photos. But not the whole story. He turned the screen toward me. My father sat across from Venom in what looked like a bar, shaking hands over a pile of cash. This was taken 6 months ago. Long before any gambling debts. Your daddy came to me with a proposal. My stomach dropped. What kind of proposal? He knew I was looking for someone specific. Someone who looked like Sarah. He'd seen the photos I'd been circulating, the reward I was offering. Venom's smile made my skin crawl. $50,000 for the right girl. You're lying. Am I? He swiped to another photo. Me walking across my college campus, unaware I was being watched. We've been watching you for months. Making sure you were perfect. The room spun. My father sold me. Your father provided a service. I paid him well for it. Venom leaned back in his chair. But I needed Reaper to think it was legitimate. Had to make him believe you were stolen goods, not willing merchandise. The auction was theater. Everyone there except Reaper knew the score. He was supposed to lose you to someone else, someone who'd break you properly. But my dear brother had to be the hero. Venom's laugh was bitter. Always did have a savior complex. I pressed my hands to my mouth, fighting nausea. Everything had been a lie. My father, the auction, even my escape attempts. All carefully orchestrated to make me fall for Reaper. Why? I whispered. Revenge. Venom got up and walked to the window. Sarah chose him over me. She said I was too perfect, too controlled. She wanted someone broken, someone who needed fixing. His reflection in the glass looked like a beautiful corpse. So I gave her broken. I gave her Reaper with his scars and his damage. And what did she do? Tried to destroy us both. He turned back to me. But you're not Sarah. You're better. You're going to help me finish what she started. I won't help you hurt him. Oh, sweetheart. You already have. He scrolled through more photos on his phone. Look. Video footage from his compound showed Reaper and the surviving Devil's Jackals loading weapons into trucks. Even through the grainy security camera footage, I could see the rage radiating from him. He's coming for you. Just like I knew he would. Venom sat back down. And when he gets here, he's going to walk right into my trap. You could have just killed him at your compound. Where's the fun in that? I want him to suffer first. I want him to know what it feels like to lose everything. His eyes glittered with madness. Sarah's dead, but she never loved him anyway. You're different. You actually fell for the monster. He crept up my neck. I haven't fallen for anyone. Liar. He reached across the table and touched my cheek. I can see it in your eyes. The way you defended him even when you thought he was a kidnapper. The way you screamed his name when I took you. I jerked away from his touch. You don't know anything. I know everything. I know you think about his hands on your skin. I know you wonder what it would feel like to kiss those scars. I know you've started to crave his attention, his approval. Venom's voice dropped to a whisper. I know you love him. You're insane. Maybe. But I'm not wrong. He stood up. Don't worry. You'll have a front row seat when I kill him. After he left, I paced the small room like a caged animal. Everything he'd said played over and over in my mind. My father had sold me. The auction was fake. Even my feelings for Reaper might have been manipulated. But was that true? Had I really fallen for him, or was it just Stockholm Syndrome? I thought about the way he'd tended to my wrists after the auction. How he'd protected me from the other club members. The gentleness in his scarred hands when he taught me to ride. The door opened again. A different man this time, young with nervous eyes. "Boss wants you to see something," he said, gesturing for me to follow. He led me through concrete hallways to a room filled with monitors. Security footage from multiple locations played on the screens. There. He pointed to one monitor. The Devil's Jackals convoy was moving through the desert, maybe a dozen bikes and trucks. In the lead truck I could see Reaper behind the wheel, his face set in stone. "They'll be here in 2 hours," the young man said. "Boss figured you'd want to watch." But I wasn't looking at Reaper anymore. I was looking at another screen that showed the route they were taking. A narrow canyon road with steep walls on both sides. Perfect for an ambush. "He's going to kill them all," I whispered. "That's the plan." The man seemed proud of it. "Boss has been setting charges in that canyon for weeks. Won't be nothing left but scrap metal and bones." I had to warn them. But how? I was locked in a fortress with armed guards everywhere. Then I remembered something. The phone Reaper had given me for emergencies. It was still in my pocket when Venom took me. I felt around my jeans. Nothing. But these weren't the same clothes. Someone had changed me while I was unconscious. "I need to use the bathroom," I told the guard. He escorted me to a small restroom down the hall. Inside, I searched frantically through the pile of my old clothes in the corner. There. The phone was still in my jeans pocket. I had 1 bar of signal and maybe 30 seconds before the guard got suspicious. I scrolled to the only programmed number, tank, and typed a message. "Canyon Road ambush. Bombs. Don't come." I hit send and prayed it would go through before shoving the phone back into my old jeans and flushing the toilet. When I came out, the guard was checking his watch impatiently. "Let's go. Boss wants to talk to you before the show starts." As he led me back to my room, I could only hope my warning had reached them in time. Because whether my feelings were real or manufactured, I couldn't watch Reaper die. Not like this. The explosions never came. I sat by my window for hours watching the empty canyon road. No fire, no smoke, no thunder of falling rock. Just desert silence. My message had gotten through. Around sunset, Venom burst into my room, his perfect face twisted with rage. "What did you do?" "I don't know what you mean." He grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. "They turned around. My scouts saw them change course 3 hours ago." "How did you warn them?" "I've been locked in this room all day." His black eyes searched my face looking for lies. When he found none, he released me with a shove. "Clever girl. But it doesn't matter. This just means we do it the hard way." He stalked to the window and spoke into a radio. "All units, prepare for assault. They know about the canyon, so they'll come from the east. Set up a perimeter and wait for my signal." As night fell, the compound transformed into a war zone. Men took positions on rooftops and behind concrete barriers. The air hummed with tension and the smell of gun oil. Then I heard them. The deep rumble of Harley engines echoed off the canyon walls, growing louder by the minute. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Showtime," Venom said, checking his weapon. "You're coming with me." He dragged me from the room and up a narrow staircase to the roof. From there I could see the entire compound spread out below and the desert beyond. Headlights appeared on the horizon, moving fast. "There." Venom pointed to the lead bike. Even at this distance I could make out Reaper's massive frame and the way he rode like death itself. Right on schedule. The Devil's Jackals hit the compound like a hurricane. They came from 3 directions at once. Bikes weaving between gunfire, men diving and rolling behind cover. It wasn't the frontal assault Venom had expected. In the chaos below, I saw Tank, apparently not as badly wounded as I'd thought, tackle 2 savage Reapers with his bare hands. Other Devil's Jackals moved with military precision, each man knowing exactly where to be. But where was Reaper? A door exploded behind us. I spun around to see him standing in the stairwell doorway, covered in blood and concrete dust. His ice-blue eyes locked onto mine. "Miss me?" he asked. Venom spun, raising his gun, but Reaper was faster. His knife found Venom's wrist and the pistol went flying across the roof. The brothers circled each other like wolves. Same height, same build, but where Venom was perfect, Reaper was scarred and broken and absolutely terrifying. "You always were too slow, little brother," Reaper said. "And you were always too trusting." Venom pulled a second gun from his back. Sarah proved that. The shot was deafeningly loud in the night air. I screamed as Reaper staggered, blood spreading across his shirt. But he didn't go down. Instead he smiled, and the expression was more frightening than any scar. "My turn." He moved like lightning. The gun went off again, but the shot went wide. The two men crashed into the concrete wall, trading blows that would have killed normal men. I had to do something. While they fought, I crawled across the roof toward Venom's dropped pistol. My fingers had just closed around the grip when someone grabbed my ankle. A savage Reaper's prospect, young and wild-eyed, tried to drag me toward the stairs. "Boss wants you alive," he panted. I twisted in his grip and brought the gun up. The shot took him in the shoulder, spinning him away from me. When I looked back, Reaper had Venom in a chokehold. "It's over," he said. "Is it?" Venom gasped out a laugh. "Tell me, brother, did you enjoy my gift? Did you fall for her just like you fell for Sarah?" Reaper's grip tightened. "Mia's nothing like Sarah. No. She warned you about the canyon. She's fighting to save you. She even shot one of my men." Venom's black eyes found mine. "Sarah never would have done that. Sarah was selfish to the core. But this one actually loves you." Something shifted in Reaper's face. His grip loosened just enough. Venom broke free and dove for a knife on the ground. "Look out!" I screamed. Reaper spun, but the blade caught him across the ribs. He stumbled backward, right to the edge of the roof. For a moment he balanced there, arms windmilling. Our eyes met across the space between us. Then he fell. "No." I lunged forward, but Venom caught my wrist. "Don't worry, sweetheart. It's only 2 stories. Probably won't kill him." His grip was iron. "But it'll slow him down enough for me to finish this properly." Below, I could see Reaper's still form on the concrete. He wasn't moving. Rage filled me like poison. I still had the gun. "Let go of me." "Or what? You'll shoot me?" Venom laughed. "You don't have it in you. You're not like us." He was right. I wasn't like them. I wasn't raised in violence and betrayal. I wasn't hardened by years of bloodshed. But I was in love with a man who might be dying, and that made me dangerous in ways Venom couldn't understand. I pulled the trigger. The bullet took him in the leg, dropping him to his knees. He stared up at me in shock. "You shot me. I warned you to let go." I kept the gun trained on him as I backed toward the stairs. "Stay down." I ran down the staircase, taking the steps 3 at a time. Outside, the battle was winding down. Most of the savage Reapers were dead or had surrendered. Devil's Jackals members secured the compound with practiced efficiency. I found Reaper where he'd fallen, Tank kneeling beside him. "How bad?" I asked. "Couple broken ribs. Maybe a concussion. He'll live." Tank looked up at me with something like respect. "Heard you shot Venom. Is he dead?" "No. But he'll be limping for a while." Tank grinned. "Boss is gonna be real proud when he wakes up." I knelt beside Reaper and touched his scarred face. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused but alive. "Mia. I'm here. You came for me." His voice was barely a whisper. "Actually, you came for me." "Same thing." He tried to sit up and winced. "Venom. Shot. Not dead but down." I helped him lean against the wall. "It's over." "No." He struggled to focus on my face. "It's not over until I know you're safe." Something in his voice made my chest tight. "I am safe. You saved me. You saved yourself. And me." His hand found mine. Venom was right about one thing. "What?" "You're nothing like Sarah." His thumb traced over my knuckles. "Sarah would have let me fall." Tears I'd been holding back finally spilled over. "I couldn't watch you die." "Why?" His ice blue eyes searched my face. "Why risk everything for a monster like me?" The answer was there in my chest, burning bright and terrifying and absolutely true. "Because I love you." His breath caught. For a moment neither of us moved. Then he pulled me down and kissed me. It wasn't gentle or sweet. It was desperate and hungry and tasted like blood and gunpowder. But it was real and it was ours and it meant everything. When we broke apart, sirens wailed in the distance. "Time to go," Tank said. Reaper struggled to his feet, leaning heavily on my shoulder. "Can you ride?" "With you? Anywhere." We limped toward his bike together, leaving the burning compound behind us. I'd stopped being his property somewhere between the canyon and the rooftop. Now I was something much more dangerous. I was his partner. We didn't go back to the compound that night. Instead, Reaper drove us to a small cabin hidden in the desert mountains, a place he said the club used for emergencies. The ride took 2 hours with me pressed against his back, feeling every wince when the bike hit a bump. Inside, the cabin was simple but clean. One room with a bed, kitchenette, and stone fireplace. No electricity, but there were oil lamps and a generator. Sit. I pointed to the bed while I rummaged through the medical supplies I'd found in the bathroom. I'm fine. You fell off a roof. You're not fine. I turned around with antiseptic and bandages. Shirt off. He started to argue, then saw the look on my face and pulled his shirt over his head. The damage was worse than I'd expected. Dark bruises covered his ribs and the knife wound was still bleeding. But it was the old scars that made me catch my breath. The fire hadn't just burned his face. It had taken pieces of his chest and arms too, leaving a roadmap of raised, twisted skin. Some areas were numb and white. Others were angry red, like they still hurt. Ugly, isn't it? His voice was flat. No. I moved closer, studying the patterns. It's proof you survived. I cleaned the knife wound first, working carefully around the scar tissue. His muscles tensed under my touch, but he didn't pull away. Why did you come for me? I asked as I worked. You're mine. That's not an answer. You could have let Venom keep me. Found another girl who looked like Sarah. His jaw tightened. I don't want another girl. Why not? Because. He struggled with the words. Because you shot one of his men to save me. Because you warned us about the ambush. Because when I fell off that roof, you looked like your world was ending. I finished bandaging the wound and moved to check his ribs. And because Sarah never would have done any of those things. I looked up at him. I'm not Sarah. No. You're not. His hand cupped my face, thumb tracing my cheek. You're Mia. And I think I've been falling for you since the night I bought you. The confession hung between us like a live wire. Show me, I whispered. His eyes darkened. Show you what? Show me I'm yours. What followed wasn't gentle or sweet. It was 3 weeks of tension exploding between us, desperate and claiming and absolutely consuming. He mapped every inch of my skin with his hands and mouth, like he was memorizing me. When he found the faded mark on my hip where he'd branded me with the fake tattoo, he kissed it until I gasped. Wine, he whispered against my skin. Yours, I agreed. We moved together like we were drowning and the other was air. When he finally claimed me completely, the pain was sharp and brief. But the pleasure that followed was everything I'd imagined in my darkest fantasies. Afterward, we lay tangled together in the lamplight. His fingers traced patterns on my bare shoulder while I studied the scars on his chest. Tell me about the fire, I said. His hands stilled. Why? Because I want to know all of you. Even the parts that hurt. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, it was supposed to be a routine meeting. Neutral ground between the clubs to discuss territory. His voice was emotionless, like he was reading a report. Sarah had been acting strange for weeks. Nervous. Jumpy. Said she was worried about violence escalating. But she was gathering information. Yeah. Dates, locations, security details. I thought she was scared. Turns out she was shopping. His laugh was bitter. Venom's crew hit us at the meeting. Molotov cocktails through the windows. The whole place went up like a matchbox. I pressed a kiss to one of the scars. How did you get out? Tank. He carried me through the flames. His arm tightened around me. I was unconscious for 3 days. When I woke up, they told me Sarah was dead. Found her body in the back room. Did you love her? I thought I did. But looking back. He tilted my chin up to meet his eyes. I think I loved the idea of her. The perfect old lady who'd make me complete. And now I know better. Perfect doesn't exist. But real does. He kissed me softly. And you're real. I fell asleep in his arms, feeling safer than I had since this whole nightmare began. I woke up alone. The bed beside me was cold, which meant he'd been gone for a while. Through the window I could see him outside talking on his phone. I pulled on his discarded shirt and padded to the bathroom. That's when I saw it, his leather jacket hanging on a chair with papers sticking out of the inside pocket. I shouldn't have looked. I knew that. But something about the way he'd been holding his phone, the careful distance he'd kept from the cabin while talking, made alarm bells ring in my head. The papers were photographs. Surveillance photos. Of me. My stomach dropped as I flipped through them. Me walking to class. Me at my part-time job at the campus bookstore. Me getting coffee with friends. Some were taken weeks before the auction. Some looked months old. At the bottom of the stack was a handwritten note. Target confirmed. Resemblance to subject Sarah is 85%. Recommend proceeding with acquisition plan. V. Venom. The cabin door opened behind me. Find something interesting? Reaper's voice was carefully neutral. I turned around, clutching the photos. How long have you been watching me? Mia. How long? My voice cracked. He closed the door and leaned against it. 6 months. The words hit like a physical blow. Before the auction. Before my father's gambling debts. Before everything. Yes. You've been stalking me for 6 months. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I threw the photos at him. They scattered across the floor between us. Tell me exactly what it was like, Reaper. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you and your brother planned this whole thing together. No. His voice was sharp. I would never work with Venom. Never. Then explain these. He looked down at the scattered photographs and something in his expression broke. Your father came to the club 8 months ago. Not to Venom, to me. He said he had gambling debts and wanted to sell his daughter to pay them off. Reaper's hands clenched into fists. I threw him out. Told him if he ever came back I'd kill him. But I couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said. A girl who needed protecting. So I had Tank watch you. Just to make sure you were safe. I stared at him. You had me followed for months. To protect you. And when my father showed up at that auction you just happened to be there? I was there because Tank called me. Said your father was trying to sell you to the Savage Reapers. His eyes met mine. I couldn't let that happen. So you bought me instead. I saved you. You bought me. The words exploded out of me. You paid $50,000 to own me. How is that saving me? Because the alternative was letting Venom have you. Or Frank. Or any of the other animals in that warehouse. He took a step toward me. At least with me you were safe. Safe. I laughed and it sounded hysterical even to my own ears. I was a prisoner. You locked me in a room. You branded me in front of your club. You owned me. And I fell in love with you. Did you? Or did you just fall in love with the idea of replacing Sarah? The question hung between us like a blade. When he didn't answer immediately, I knew I'd hit the truth. Get dressed, he said finally. We're going back to the compound. What's going to happen now? He looked at me for a long moment, his ice blue eyes unreadable. Now you decide if you can forgive me. And I decide if I can forgive myself. I got dressed in silence, my mind spinning. Everything I thought I knew had been a lie. My feelings, his feelings, the entire relationship we'd built. But as we rode back toward the compound, one thought kept echoing in my head. Real or not, I was still in love with him. And that terrified me more than anything else. The compound was rebuilding when we returned. Men worked to repair the damage from the Savage Reaper's attack, hammering boards over broken windows and patching bullet holes in the walls. Reaper and I hadn't spoken during the ride back. The surveillance photos sat between us like a wall, making everything feel different. Tainted. Boss. Tank met us in the courtyard, his arm in a sling but otherwise looking good for someone who'd been shot. We got a problem. What kind of problem? The kind that's sitting in your living room asking for a beer. Reaper's jaw tightened. Who? Her daddy. I felt the blood drain from my face. My father's here? Showed up an hour ago in a rental car, carrying a briefcase and talking about peace offerings. Tank's expression was grim. Says he's got information about Venom's next move. It's a trap, I said immediately. Yeah, that's what I figured too. Tank looked at Reaper. Want me to throw him out? No. Reaper's eyes were cold as winter. I want to hear what he has to say. But first. He turned to me. You don't have to see him if you don't want to. Part of me wanted to hide in my room and pretend this wasn't happening. But I needed to face the man who'd sold me. I needed to look him in the eye and ask why. I'm coming with you. We found my father in the living room looking smaller than I remembered. He'd lost weight and his hair had gone gray at the temples. When he saw me, his face crumpled with what looked like relief. "Mia baby. Thank God you're okay. Stay back." The words came out sharper than I intended. He stopped mid-step, hurt flickering across his features. "I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But I'm here to make things right." "Make things right?" I stared at him in disbelief. "You sold me. Your own daughter. I was protecting you. From what?" "From them." He pointed at Reaper. "Do you know what these men do? What they're capable of?" Reaper moved to stand behind me, his presence solid and reassuring. "Why don't you tell us about your deal with Venom?" My father's face went pale. "How did you?" "We know everything. The question is, what are you doing here now?" My father set his briefcase on the coffee table and opened it. Inside were stacks of cash and what looked like surveillance equipment. "Venom's planning something big. A coordinated strike against all the Devil's Jackals' safe houses." He pulled out a tablet showing building layouts and patrol schedules. "He wanted me to deliver this information to you personally." "Why would he want you to warn us?" I asked. "Because it's not a warning. It's bait." My father looked directly at me. "He knows you'll never leave willingly now. So he's going to force Reaper to bring you to him." Tank stepped forward. "How?" "The information is real, but it's old. Venom's already hit those safe houses. While you're investigating his next move, he'll be hitting this compound with everything he's got." I looked at the tablet more closely. The building layouts, the personnel schedules, it all looked legitimate. "When?" Reaper's voice was deadly quiet. "Tonight. Midnight." My father closed the briefcase. "But there's more." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. "He gave me this. Said to activate it once I was inside the compound." "A transmitter," Tank said. "GPS beacon, actually. So his men know exactly where to find you." My father set the device on the table. "I was supposed to turn it on and keep you talking until they arrived. But you didn't." "No. Because." He looked at me with eyes full of regret. "Because I realized what I'd done. What I'd let them turn me into." Reaper picked up the beacon, studying it. "This could still be part of the trap. Maybe Venom sent you here to tell us this story, make us think we're safe." "Maybe." My father nodded. "But I'm hoping you'll give me a chance to prove I'm telling the truth." "How?" "Let me activate it. Let them come. But be ready for them." He reached for the device. "Use me as bait." "Dad, no." I grabbed his wrist. "They'll kill you. I deserve it." His eyes filled with tears. "What I did to you, there's no forgiveness for that. But maybe I can do one thing right." "Why?" I searched his face for answers. "Why did you do it in the first place?" He slumped into a chair, suddenly looking every one of his 58 years. "The gambling debts were real. I owed money to some very bad people. But that's not why I made the deal with Venom." He rubbed his face with shaking hands. He showed me photos. You walking alone at night. Getting into your car in dark parking lots. He said accidents happen to pretty girls all the time. My blood went cold. He threatened to hurt me? He said he could protect you. Keep you safe. All I had to do was deliver you to the right place at the right time. My father's voice broke. He made it sound like I was saving your life. And you believed him? I wanted to believe him. Because the alternative was admitting I was selling my daughter to pay my debts. He looked up at me through tears. "I'm a coward, Mia. A selfish, weak coward. And I destroyed the only good thing in my life." The room fell silent except for the tick of a clock on the mantel. I thought about all the nights I'd wondered where he was, all the times I'd bailed him out of trouble, all the promises he'd broken. But I also thought about the man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd stayed up with me when I had nightmares, who'd told me I could be anything I wanted. "You want to make it right?" I asked. He nodded eagerly. "Then you need to leave. Tonight. Drive as far as you can and never come back." I felt Reaper's hand on my shoulder, supporting me. "Because if I ever see you again, I won't be able to stop myself from hating you. Mia. Go. Now." My father stood slowly, looking like I'd physically struck him. "What about the beacon? The attack?" Reaper stepped forward. "We'll handle Venom our own way. I could still help. I could. You've helped enough." Reaper's voice carried the promise of violence. You've got 30 seconds to get off my property before I change my mind about letting you live. My father grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door. At the threshold, he turned back one last time. I love you, baby girl. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but it's true. I know, I whispered. That's what makes this so much worse. After he left, I sank onto the couch and put my head in my hands. You okay? Reaper sat beside me. No. But I will be. I looked up at him. What are we going to do about Venom? We're going to end this. Tonight. He picked up the GPS beacon. But first you need to decide something. What? He held out his gun. Your father chose Venom over you. He put you in danger to save himself. The question is, what does that make him to you now? I stared at the weapon. You want me to kill him? I want you to choose. Him or me. Your old family or your new one. His ice blue eyes were steady on mine. Because after tonight there won't be any going back. I took the gun, feeling its weight in my hands. Through the window I could see my father getting into his rental car. One shot would end the threat he represented. Would make sure he could never betray me again. But it would also make me like them. Like the people who'd bought and sold me. I set the gun on the table. He's not worth it, I said. But if he ever comes back, if he ever threatens you or this family again, I'll kill him myself. Reaper smiled, and for the first time since I'd found those photos, it reached his eyes. That's my girl. Outside, my father's car disappeared into the desert night. I'd chosen my side. Now it was time to finish this war. The call came at 11 p.m. Reaper. Venom's voice crackled through the burner phone. I believe you have something that belongs to me. I don't have anything of yours. My brother's girlfriend. My revenge. My closure. There was a pause. But I'm feeling generous tonight. Let's make a trade. Reaper put the phone on speaker so Tank and I could hear. What kind of trade? The girl for my freedom. Meet me at the old mining station outside Barstow. Come alone and I'll disappear forever. You'll never see me again. And if I don't? Then I hunt you both until one of us is dead. Could take years. Could get messy. Lot of innocent people might get hurt. Venom's laugh was cold. Your choice, brother. The line went dead. It's a trap, Tank said immediately. Of course it is. Reaper was already moving, checking his weapons. But it's also our best shot at ending this. You can't seriously be considering going, I said. I'm not going. He looked at me. We are. What? You heard him. He wants you there. If I show up without you, he'll know something's wrong. Reaper strapped on his shoulder holster. Besides, after tonight, I'm done making decisions for you. This is your choice. I thought about everything that had led us here. The auction, the compound, the blood and betrayal and lies. But also the moments of tenderness. The way he'd protected me. The way I'd chosen him over my own father. What's the plan? Tank grinned. Now you're talking. An hour later we were riding through the desert toward Barstow. Just Reaper and me on his bike with Tank and 3 other Devil's Jackals following at a distance. The mining station was a relic from the 1950s, rusted buildings and abandoned equipment scattered across 20 acres of wasteland. Perfect place for an ambush. Reaper killed the engine 100 yards from the main building. Remember, he said as we walked toward the station. Whatever happens, stay behind me. And if things go bad. He pressed something into my hand. A small pistol. I told you I'm done making decisions for you. But I'm not done protecting you. The main building was dark except for a single light in what used to be the foreman's office. Our footsteps echoed on the metal stairs as we climbed. Venom was waiting for us, sitting behind an old desk like he owned the place. But he wasn't alone. Hello, Axel. The voice came from the shadows behind him. A woman stepped into the light and my heart stopped. She was alive, but barely. The fire had taken the left side of her face and neck, leaving scars that made Reaper's look minor. Her dark hair was streaked with gray, and she moved like someone who lived in constant pain. But her eyes were full of hate. Surprised. Venom asked. I've been taking care of our girl here for the past 3 years. Nursing her back to health. Giving her time to think about what you did to her. Sarah. Reaper's voice was barely a whisper. Don't. She held up a scarred hand. Don't you dare say my name like you have the right. I thought you were dead. I should be dead. Because of you. She moved closer and I could see the full extent of her injuries. Because you were so obsessed, so possessive, that you drove me into the arms of your enemies. That's not what happened. Isn't it? You watched me. Followed me. Made me account for every minute of my day. Her voice rose. I couldn't breathe without you knowing about it. I looked at Reaper, seeing the truth in his face. The surveillance photos of me suddenly made horrible sense. So you betrayed him to Venom, I said. Sarah's ruined face turned toward me. And who are you to judge? His new pet? His replacement, Sarah. I'm not replacing anyone. No? Then why do you look exactly like me? She laughed and the sound was broken glass. He has a type, doesn't he? Dark hair, brown eyes, small enough to control. It's not like that. Isn't it? Venom stood up. Tell her, Reaper. Tell her about the photos. The months of surveillance. The way you orchestrated her father's debts to put her in that auction. I didn't orchestrate anything. No, but you took advantage of it. Just like you took advantage of Sarah's fear. Venom moved behind his brother's ex-girlfriend, his hands on her shoulders. She came to me for protection. From you. And you used her. Just like you're using her now. Am I? Venom's hands tightened on Sarah's shoulders. Or am I giving her what she's always wanted? Revenge. Sarah pulled a gun from her jacket, pointing it directly at me. You want to see obsession? She asked Reaper. Watch me kill your new toy. Everything slowed down. Sarah's finger tightened on the trigger. Reaper lunged forward. I brought up my own gun, the one he'd given me. 3 shots fired at once. When the smoke cleared, Sarah was on the floor, clutching her shoulder. Venom had a spreading red stain on his chest. Reaper was standing over his brother, bleeding from a graze on his arm but very much alive. It's over, he said. No. Venom struggled to sit up, blood frothing on his lips. It's not over until she's dead. Until you lose everything like I did. You didn't lose Sarah. You never had her. I loved her. You obsessed over her. There's a difference. Reaper looked down at the woman who'd caused so much pain. Just like I did. Sarah was trying to crawl toward her dropped gun. I kicked it away from her reach. Don't, I said. It's finished. He'll do the same thing to you, she gasped out. He'll watch you and control you and suffocate you until you can't stand it anymore. I looked at Reaper, seeing him clearly for the first time. The man who'd bought me at an auction. Who'd kept surveillance photos of me. Who'd branded me in front of his club to mark his territory. But also the man who'd protected me from worse fates. Who'd come for me when Venom took me. Who'd let me make the choice about my father. Maybe, I said. But that's my decision to make. Venom made one last desperate grab for his gun. This time it was my shot that stopped him. Final and clean. When the police arrived 20 minutes later, called by Tank when he heard the gunshots, they found 2 bodies and a wounded woman who claimed she'd been held captive for 3 years. They found Reaper and me holding each other in the desert night, waiting for whatever came next. 6 months later, I stood in front of a mirror in a white dress that cost more than my father's car used to be worth. You sure about this? Tank asked from the doorway. I looked at my reflection. The brand on my hip had faded to nothing. The bruises were long gone. But the changes inside me were permanent. I'm sure. The wedding was small, just the club and their families. No white picket fence fantasy, no promises of normal life. Just a woman choosing to bind herself to a dangerous man who loved her enough to let her choose. When Reaper saw me walking down the aisle, his scarred face lit up with something I'd never seen there before. Pure joy. You look beautiful, he said when I reached him. You clean up pretty good yourself. The ceremony was short. We'd written our own vows and they were nothing like traditional wedding promises. I promised to never lie to you again, he said. I promise to trust you with the truth even when it's ugly. And I promise that if you ever want to leave, I'll let you go. I promise to stay as long as you're the man I fell in love with, I replied. I promise to fight beside you, not behind you. And I promise that if you ever try to control me the way you controlled Sarah, I'll put a bullet in you myself. The preacher looked uncomfortable, but Tank whistled his approval. By the power vested in me by the state of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife. The kiss was soft and sweet and tasted like forever. Later at the reception I stepped outside for air. The desert stretched out before me, endless and free. Having second thoughts? Reaper appeared beside me, offering me a beer. Never. I took the bottle and leaned against him. But I need to know something. What? Are you going to keep watching me? Following me? Checking up on me? He was quiet for a long moment. Probably. It's who I am, Mia. I'm possessive and controlling, and I don't know how to love someone without wanting to own them. I know. Does that scare you? I thought about everything we'd been through. The fear, the violence, the betrayals. But also the protection, the loyalty, the love that had grown between us despite everything. It should, I said finally. But it doesn't. Because I'm possessive too. And controlling. And if anyone tries to take you away from me, I'll burn the world down to get you back. He laughed, and the sound was full of relief and happiness. So what does that make us? Perfectly matched. We stood there in the desert night, watching the stars and planning our future. Tomorrow we'd ride to the coast for our honeymoon. Next month, we'd start looking for a house outside the compound, somewhere that was ours alone. But tonight we were exactly where we belonged. Ready to go back inside, Mrs. Cross? He asked. I liked the sound of that. Mrs. Cross. Not property, not possession, but partner. Lead the way, husband. As we walked back toward the lights and music, I thought about the girl who'd stood on that auction block 8 months ago. Terrified and broken and certain her life was over. She'd been right about one thing, that life was over. This one was so much better. And it was just beginning.